two brothers whose parents died at a young age. My brother became the emperor, controlling half of the underground world in Country H. His subordinates are all bloodthirsty, ruthless criminals. But his younger brother is a good-for-nothing bullied every day at school. But when Haonan asked his brother for help, his brother directly called him useless. Even warned Haonan not to tell anyone he's his brother. Seeing his only family members so cold-hearted, Haonan broke down several times. So he yelled at his brother, "You jerk, shouldn't you protect your younger brother?" But his brother didn't answer. He left the house without even looking back, leaving Haonan to cry alone. After that, Haonan was bullied even more severely at school. Even when a boy shorter than him grabbed his hair, he didn't dare to resist. Because as soon as Haonan moved, he would receive a more friendly greeting from the boy. Just as the boy was about to slap him again, Haonan actually grabbed his hand. He didn't want to endure anymore. He clenched his fists ready to fight back. But before Haonan could throw a punch, a massive force like that of a truck hit him. It instantly knocked Haonan several meters away. Zhang Shizhu scornfully shouted, "What the hell are you doing? Do you want to fight or something?" As Zhang Shizhu spoke, a group of school bullies appeared behind him. In just a few seconds the classroom was filled. At that moment Haonan realized something. That one person could never beat a group. And so Haonan was beaten up by the boy with yellow hair again. But misfortune didn't end there. After the beating, Haonan received a strange phone call. It was the police. They told him his brother was in trouble. Haonan rushed over as fast as he could. But he was still too late. His brother had passed away after unsuccessful resuscitation. The police explained cryptically. He was riding his motorcycle on the highway last night, and collided with a 5-ton truck coming in the opposite direction. That he survived at all was a miracle. But when Haonan heard this, he only found it laughable. This scum, who usually treated others like trash, ended up dying senselessly because of a motorcycle accident. Haonan would never forget the scene of him crying alone that day. Thinking of this, Haonan turned around. He left only one sentence, "I don't want the body," and prepared to leave. But as he reached the hospital door, the police officer came running after him holding a box. Wait, young man, I understand. You must not have money for the funeral, right? At least take your brother's belongings." Confused, Haonan stood there, as the officer handed him his brother's belongings. At that moment Haonan didn't know that inside was something that would change his fate. Looking at his brother's old things, even though he complained that his brother was crazy, tears still couldn't stop flowing. Just then, a sudden notification sound came from the box. Haonan searched for the source of the sound. He found that his brother's phone was only cracked, but it was still working fine. Haonan saw that the person who sent the message actually referred to his brother as boss. Driven by curiosity, he unlocked the screen using his memory. Then he began to check the message that had just been received. But to his surprise, he found a message about Zhang Shizhu, recalling the scene where he was beaten up by him earlier that morning. Haonan couldn't help but open it. He even replied with a message. Zhang Shizhu is scum. He deserves to be wiped out again and again. However, when Haonan looked carefully, he realized that the message was actually posted in a group chat. But Haonan didn't think much of it. Instead, he ordered them to all gather here. Haonan planned to call the police as soon as they arrived, and have them arrested. But just then, the boy with yellow hair suddenly appeared. "What are you doing here, you little brat?" As he spoke, the boy noticed Haonan's brother's belongings. Without a second thought, he threw everything from the box into the river. Then he gave Haonan a smug, taunting look. Finally, Haonan couldn't hold back anymore and rushed at him. He immediately knocked the boy with yellow hair to the ground. Then he landed a heavy punch straight to his face. But Haonan didn't stop there. He followed up with a powerful kick. Just as Haonan was venting his anger, he suddenly took a punch to the face. It was Zhang Shizhu. Seeing his subordinate beaten like this, he immediately smirked and prepared to help him with self-defense. Seeing this, Haonan was scared and tried to run. But Zhang Shizhu wasn't going to let him escape. He decisively chased after him. However, just as Zhang Shizhu was about to catch up, a young man on a motorcycle suddenly appeared. He swung a stick and knocked Zhang Shizhu flying. Meanwhile, dozens of people just like the young man appeared in the distance. They all started walking towards them. Haonan couldn't believe it. He never expected them to act so quickly. The message had barely been sent for 2 minutes. A group of ruthless men dressed in the same clothes had already surrounded Zhang Shizhu, leaving him no way out. Suddenly the leader brother Ji Zhang spoke. "The boss says you're scum. You're not worth even one more life. What did you do to piss him off?" Upon hearing this, Zhang Shizhu was completely confused. He had never even met the boss. But only Haonan, hiding in the shadows, knew that it was all because he had sent a random WeChat message earlier. Then at brother Ji Yang's command, everyone immediately pulled out their weapons and attacked. In less than 3 seconds, Zhang Shizhu was beaten to a bloody pulp. At the same time, Haonan's phone received a message. Boss Zhang Shizhu has been taken care of. Seeing this, Haonan suddenly had some daring thoughts. The next day during lunch, Haonan took the opportunity to ask his good friend Min Guo about the Emperor's team. Haonan soon found out that his brother had actually ruled over half of the high schools in Country H while alive. But now all of that belonged to him. However, Haonan didn't feel happy about it, because he thought his brother was a jerk. He was no different from those scumbags who bullied him every day. Suddenly a flurry of noises broke Haonan's thoughts. A few bullies from the first group were threatening a glasses-wearing guy to wash their trays. Min Guo, seeing this, wanted to step in and help. Haonan quickly stopped him, because he knew that rushing in head-on would be pointless. Looking at the poor guy who was often bullied at school, they decided to help him in another way. Once the first group of bullies left, Haonan and Min Guo specifically came to help the glasses-wearing guy wash the trays. However, the scene of the three of them washing trays together was accidentally seen by a few people who were about to leave. Once Haonan and Min Guo finished helping, as they were leaving the cafeteria, they saw Quan Daoshen waving at them. As soon as they approached, Haonan was knocked down by him. Min Guo also took a punch from one of his subordinates. Then Haonan was brutally stomped under Quan Daoshen's foot. He scornfully said, "You bastard, trying to steal someone else's job? If you want to work so badly, then first be my footstool." Just as he finished speaking, one of his subordinates flew in. To everyone's surprise, Min Guo actually got into a fighting stance. Seeing this, Haonan cursed inwardly, calling him crazy. The subordinate who had been knocked back soon threw another punch. To Haonan's surprise, Min Guo actually managed to land a hit. Haonan was stunned by this. Min Guo then quickly prepared to attack Quan Daoshen, but Quan Daoshen kicked him in the face first. It wasn't over yet. Quan Daoshen landed another heavy punch. Min Guo tried to find an opportunity to fight back, but unexpectedly Quan Daoshen hit him in the face with a knee strike. Min Guo was knocked unconscious from the blow. However, Quan Daoshen didn't plan to stop. He lit a cigarette and aimed the burning tip at Min Guo's mouth. He was going to use Min Guo as an ashtray. Just as the ash was about to fall into Min Guo's mouth, Haonan stepped forward. He didn't fight back. Instead, he knelt down and begged for mercy. He patted his back, signaling for Quan Daoshen to sit on him. Seeing this, Quan Daoshen stopped what he was doing. He was ready to sit on Haonan's back to test his resilience. But just then the class bell rang. He irritably said to Haonan, "You're such a buzzkill, but from now on you'll be my personal sofa. Remember to be on standby at all times, kid." "And you too." After speaking, Quan Daoshen kicked Min Guo. He flicked the cigarette butt onto Min Guo's head and left. Afterward, Haonan helped his good brother, who had almost sacrificed his life for him, to his feet. But Min Guo was already in tears. He didn't know how he was going to survive in this school anymore. But Haonan had secretly made a plan in his mind. The afternoon came. Suddenly the door to Haonan's classroom was pushed open. Min Guo hurriedly found Haonan. Min Guo signaled that something was happening outside. At this moment, the door to the neighboring class was surrounded by a crowd. When Haonan got closer, he was stunned. Quan Daoshen had actually volunteered to be the human sofa for the glasses-wearing guy. He even asked him softly if the height was comfortable. When Quan Daoshen's subordinates saw this, they quickly pushed the glasses-wearing guy off his back. But the next second, Quan Daoshen retaliated by punching the subordinate. He shouted at him angrily, "You crazy bastard, are you trying to kill me?" After saying this, Quan Daoshen kneeled on the ground. He signaled for the glasses-wearing guy to sit on his back. What happened next was even more absurd. Quan Daoshen actually took off all his clothes and started running around the playground naked. It turned out that Quan Daoshen was doing all this because of Haonan. At noon, Haonan had used his brother's phone to send a message to his subordinates. Afterward, the Emperor's team took only a few minutes to beat Quan Daoshen into a grotesque mess. What was even scarier was the message Haonan had sent. It was only a few words. At this moment, Haonan finally realized how terrifying his brother's Emperor's team was. At the same time, Haonan also planned to make good use of them. He wanted them to eliminate the school bullies who had once bullied him. Thus, within a week, 3 or 4 bullies from the first year of school were secretly taught a lesson by the Emperor's team. But this soon caught the attention of 2 key figures in the school, Azu and Jianfu. Seeing their subordinates being beaten, they didn't plan to just sit back. Azu analyzed, "All the attacks lately have been on first-year subordinates. This has to be personal. It must be some first-year brat who hired the Emperor's team. So today we're going to find him and deal with him." At the age of 12, Azu had killed a classmate with a shovel. He was only sentenced to 2 years in juvenile detention for being underage. Now with his viciousness, he had become the leader of Dragon Ri High School. But yesterday, one of Azu's subordinates had been mysteriously beaten. After hearing this, Azu immediately ordered his subordinates to gather all the troublemaking first-year students. He suspected someone had paid to cause this trouble. Azu said that if he found evidence later, He would make them endure tortures like they'd never seen before. Afterward he ordered his subordinates to start searching them one by one. Haonan was instantly alarmed, cause he was the one who had called them, and the phone used to send a message was in his pocket. If he gets caught he will definitely die. While the other students were being searched, Haonan decided to take a gamble. All he had to do was type Longrai School Auditorium in the Emperor's team group. And that would be enough. With that thought, Haonan quickly turned around, grabbed his phone and started typing. But this small movement was immediately noticed by Azu. What are you doing? I told you not to move. You want to die? You're acting too suspicious. At that moment Azu's subordinate, hearing the noise, walked over to Haonan. Hey kid, give me your phone right now. Haonan didn't dare to make a sound. But when the subordinate tried to take his phone, Haonan stubbornly held onto it and wouldn't let go. Just as the subordinate was about to beat Haonan, a soft voice came from behind. It was me. Everyone's gaze instantly turned toward the source of the voice. It was actually Jin Duoking, the guy who gets beaten 3 times a day. At this the subordinate released his grip. He turned around and asked, "What did you just say? It was you?" "Yes, I hired them. I was wrong. I hated those scoundrels who bullied me. That's why I asked the Emperor's team for help." Upon hearing this, Azu was a bit shocked. He hadn't even mentioned who did it. But this kid already knew it was the Emperor's team. And he hadn't told anyone about his subordinate getting beaten. Only someone with knowledge of this important information could know. Wasn't him, it was this brat. "Give it to me right now." "What's the password?" 0715. However, when Azu saw the contents of the phone he fell silent. There were only ads and spam messages. Since there was no evidence, Azu handed the phone back to Haonan unhappily. But things were about to get worse for Jin Duoking. Azu immediately punched him in the abdomen. Then Azu signaled for everyone else to leave. The torture was about to begin. Haonan didn't understand why Jin Duoking was taking the beating for him. But thanks to him, who had attracted everyone's attention, Haonan was able to leave the Emperor's team group. Meanwhile, the Emperor's team's subordinates noticed that their leader had left the group without warning. Although they quickly added him back to the group, it made everyone feel that something was off. Back to Haonan's side, he couldn't stop worrying about Jin Duoking. After every class he went to the neighboring class to check. But after 5 classes, Jin Duoking still hadn't returned to his seat. So worried about a possible tragedy, Haonan hurriedly went back to the auditorium alone. There was no one there. He could only hear some movement from the storage room. Haonan cautiously opened the door and started searching for Jin Duoking in the dark. Finally, in the corner, he found his good brother who had risked everything for him. Haonan quickly ripped the tape off Jin Duokang's mouth. "Wake up, are you okay? What are you doing here? You can't stay here, you should leave. Also, why did you lie and say you called the Emperor's team? It wasn't you who did it, was it? Well, it seems like you did it. Looks like you're quite rich after all. You're really impressive for being able to pull this off. So how did you know?" "Actually, the day Quan Daoshen did something unusual. I heard you talking to yourself on the rooftop. And with everything that happened today, I became even more sure that it was you who had the Emperor's team help." Haonan felt a bit sad hearing this. "But no matter what, it's still my fault you got beaten like this. It's okay, before everyone used to make fun of me. But you're the only one who reached out to help me. Maybe you didn't take it to heart, but I will remember it for the rest of my life." And that day when Quan Daoshen had his breakdown, although I was completely confused, I felt really relieved inside. "So you don't need to apologize, you should go back now. After school they're going to take me to find a guy called Jianfu. If they find you here it might cause trouble for you." But Haonan immediately ripped off the remaining tape on Jin Duokang's body. He was ready to take Jin Duoking out of there. But Jin Duoking said that even if they left, after school they'll still go to the class to grab me. Good brothers wouldn't do that. With that, Haonan sent a message in the Emperor's team group. "Take care of the ones from Longrai now." Meanwhile, while Azu was napping in class, a few dark figures suddenly appeared behind him. It was the Emperor's team.